They say betrayal never announces itself. But sometimes, if you're unlucky or lucky enough, you walk right into it. The rain hadn't let up in Redwood City since morning. It tapped against the office windows like a metronome, steady and patient. I was carrying a stack of reports and a laptop as I turned the corner toward the Ether Core Systems conference room. That's when I heard my name. "Jenna is simply executing the framework I built," Sabrina Langford said, her voice smooth like glass with an edge beneath it. "I've been steering the Lyra Dynamics deal for months. She's just delivering." I froze. There was a silence. Then Noah Singh's voice cut through. "That's a lie, and you know it. Jenna's the only reason that contract is even on the table." My heartbeat echoed louder than the rain. I wasn't supposed to hear this, but I stood still listening, my jaw tight. I had just finalized the biggest deal of my life, a 5-year, $50 million enterprise contract with Lyra Dynamics, one of the most sought-after clients in the logistics tech sector. And yet, here I was, overhearing my work being dissected and handed to someone else. I pushed the door open. Sabrina and Noah both turned to me, mid-confrontation. Noah looked relieved. Sabrina, composed. "Of course. Perfect timing," Noah said. "Tell her, Jenna. Tell her who built the deck, led the negotiations, flew to Phoenix 4 times, and customized every single solution line in that proposal." I set the files down slowly, trying to keep my voice steady. "I did." Sabrina gave me a tight smile. "We're just aligning on final messaging. I'll need your notes by end of day to polish the pitch before Monday's signing." I looked her in the eye. "The pitch is done, Sabrina. The messaging is aligned. The entire deck is tailored to Lyra's intermodal freight pain points. There's nothing to fix." She took a breath, not used to being challenged. "Well, I'll need to review it thoroughly. This deal could define our fiscal year." "I'm aware." What I didn't say was that I'd spent 11 months shaping this deal from scratch. I had logged over 200 hours of direct client interaction. Camille Rios, Lyra's CEO, had trusted me, not because of titles or credentials, but because of something more rare in this business. A relationship that wasn't built in boardrooms. As I walked away, I saw Noah clench his jaw. "She's going to try to lock you out of the signing meeting," he muttered as we passed the glass hallway. "She's done it before, but never with something this high stakes." I nodded. "Let her try." Because what no one at EtherCore knew, not Sabrina, not Elliot Crane, our polished CEO, was that Camille had been my roommate in college. We had shared a shoebox of an apartment during undergrad. I knew how she took her coffee. She knew what kind of silence meant I was thinking and what kind meant I was hurt. That bond never left us. But I never used it. I earned this deal. Every inch of it. That afternoon, just before closing time, an email popped up. Subject, executive meeting, confidential. I stared at it. My chest tightened. I'd never been in that room unless I was presenting numbers. The next morning, I walked into the boardroom. Too polished. Too cold. The kind of room where smiles meant strategy, not sincerity. I wore my only tailored blazer. No one greeted me. Elliot sat at the head of the table, eyes behind silver-rimmed glasses. Sabrina beside him, folder open, polished nails poised. "Jenna," Elliot began, "thank you for joining us. Sabrina tells me you're close to finalizing the Lyra Dynamics deal." I nodded. "We're at verbal commitment. Contract signing is set for Monday." He smiled, almost. "That's excellent news. You've done solid work." I waited. There was a shift in the air. "But," Sabrina said, smoothly stepping in, "we've been reviewing our enterprise relationship strategy. A client like Lyra needs more than technical accuracy. They need finesse, image, polish. Someone with experience managing Fortune 100 portfolios." My stomach dropped. "I've been managing the relationship directly with Camille Rios for almost a year," I said carefully. "She's expecting me to lead implementation." Sabrina gave a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You've done excellent foundational work. No one disputes that. But we need to show clients we have leadership with global experience." My hand stayed still in my lap, but my spine straightened. "This isn't about global experience," I said softly. "It's about image." Elliot didn't deny it. We're grateful for your work, Jenna. We'll ensure it's properly recognized internally. The message was clear. I wasn't going to be in that room on Monday. They were going to take my work, wrap it in Ivy League polish, and pretend I was never part of it. And worse? They thought I wouldn't fight back. But I already knew what they didn't. Camille wouldn't sign unless I was there. And that Monday, they were going to find out just how big of a mistake they'd made. The rain had stopped by the time Monday morning arrived, but a storm had settled in my chest. I didn't sleep much. Too many thoughts. Too many scenarios. I had already handed over the final pitch materials. Sabrina had everything she needed to stand in front of Camille and pretend she'd built it all. I had done it with grace, with professionalism, because part of me still hoped they'd come to their senses. They didn't. Instead, I got a second calendar invite from Elliot's assistant on Friday afternoon. Subject line, organizational review, mandatory attendance. HR was copied. When I walked into the boardroom, I already knew. There it was. The manila folder. Neatly placed in front of my seat. The entire room felt like it was holding its breath. Elliot sat straighter than usual. Sabrina kept her expression neutral. The head of HR, a woman I'd spoken to exactly twice before, was already seated, tablet in hand. Jenna, Elliot said, gesturing for me to sit, thank you for coming on short notice. I lowered myself into the chair without a word. My hands folded neatly on the table. As you know, we've been evaluating Ether Core's strategic direction, he began. With our expansion into enterprise accounts, we need to realign our internal structure to support future growth. I stared at the folder. We've made the difficult decision to eliminate the business development manager role as it currently exists. Effective immediately. It didn't matter how politely he said it. The room might as well have slapped me across the face. Sabrina added quickly, this decision wasn't a reflection of your performance. You've exceeded expectations. Then why now? I asked, finally speaking. Why eliminate my position 3 days before closing a $50 million contract? There was a pause. Elliot cleared his throat. We need to project a certain image to high-level clients, he said. Sabrina has experience with Fortune 500 portfolios. And an educational background that aligns with our long-term enterprise branding. There it was. The truth. It wasn't my skills. It wasn't my record. It was my resume. It was the state school diploma framed above my cubicle. The one no one had ever praised. The one I'd been quietly judged for by people who couldn't close a deal if it walked into the building and begged them. We're offering a generous severance package, HR interjected. 3 months of salary, full benefits, and a recommendation letter. I looked up, my voice calm and razor-sharp. That won't be necessary. I stood, closed the folder, and slid it into my bag without even looking at it. No one said a word. Sabrina avoided my eyes. Elliot looked vaguely relieved that I hadn't made a scene. I walked back to my desk in silence. Noah stood beside it already, his fists clenched. They really did it, he said, his voice thick with disbelief. After everything, they actually. They did, I said, carefully wrapping my Ohio University diploma in tissue paper and placing it into a box. They're going to regret this, Noah muttered. I gave him a tired smile. They already should. By the time I carried my box to the elevator, I felt like I was floating. Numb. Empty. Furious beneath the surface. But I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just walked out. And then, I waited. Monday morning arrived with sunlight streaking through my apartment blinds. I sat cross-legged on the couch, in yoga pants and an oversized hoodie, sipping coffee like it was any other day. Except my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. The first message came from Camille. Heading into the lion's den. Wish you were here. Brunch to celebrate this weekend. I stared at the screen. She didn't know. She had no idea I wouldn't be there. I typed back, good luck. Call me after. I hadn't told her on purpose. Not because I wanted to deceive her, but because I wanted to see what they would do when she asked the one question I knew she would ask. Where is Jenna? At 10:15, my phone rang. Noah. I picked up. Jenna. Oh my God. You are not going to believe what just happened. Try me. He was practically breathless. Camille walked into the conference room, looked around, and immediately asked, "Where's Jenna Cole?" I closed my eyes, picturing it. Noah continued, "Sabrina started saying something about how you were transitioning roles, but Camille cut her off and said, and I quote, 'If Jenna isn't involved, we're going to have to re-evaluate this entire contract.'" A slow smile spread across my face. What did Elliot do? Started damage control. Rambling about strategic transitions and team-based handoffs. Total panic. Camille wasn't having it. She said you were the only reason Lyra even considered EtherCore, and without you there's no deal. I stood up, coffee forgotten. Are they in full meltdown? It's chaos, Jenna. Sabrina looked like she was about to cry. Legal scrambling to see if they can salvage anything. But the contract's not signed. You made sure of that, didn't you? I did. Noah exhaled. You knew this would happen. I hoped, I replied. But mostly, I trusted Camille. There was a pause. So what happens now? I didn't answer right away. Because honestly, that was still up to me. The rest of Monday passed in a strange kind of stillness. Outside, the sun was finally cutting through the gray clouds. Inside, my phone was vibrating non-stop. 3 missed calls from Elliot. 2 from Sabrina. 1 unknown number that I had no interest in answering. And then a text. Call me. Now. Camille. I didn't hesitate. Jenna, she said the moment she picked up, her voice sharp and furious. What the hell happened? Why weren't you in the room this morning? I walked to my kitchen window, staring out at the still damp street. I was fired. You what? Friday. They called it a restructuring. Said they needed someone with a more strategic image. You can guess what that meant. Camille's silence thundered on the other end. Then, they let you go after you built the entire damn solution for us? I sighed. I wanted to see what they'd do. Whether they'd tell you the truth or try to spin it. They tried to spin it, she said coldly. Something about alignment and a new vision. It was absolute garbage. I knew the second you weren't there something was wrong. Thank you for standing up for me. Are you kidding? You're the only reason we even considered EtherCore. Their tech is average. What made it shine was your interpretation, your insights, your patience. I trusted you. I swallowed hard, fighting the sting behind my eyes. I appreciate that more than you know. There was a pause. Then her voice shifted. That old spark from college days came back. So what now? I leaned against the counter. That depends on what they do next. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, she said. I've already pulled the contract. And I'm not taking another meeting with them unless you're in it. Camille, that might not be possible. It is, she replied, quick and certain. Because I have a better idea. You remember Jordan Hale? I blinked. That name's familiar. He was a year above us. Economics major. Built a startup after graduation. Novatrace Technologies. That's right, I said, the pieces falling into place. I saw something about them in Logistics Quarterly. They're direct competition to EtherCore, Camille said. Smaller. More flexible. Better architecture. Jordan's been trying to get a meeting with me for 6 months. And now? I'm about to give him one, she said. But only if you're in the room. I stood straight, pulse picking up. You want me to join Novatrace? I want you to meet Jordan, she clarified. What happens next is up to you. But if you do join, and if Novatrace can meet our integration standards, then yes. I'd be very interested in moving our contract over. The idea sparked like fire in my chest. It wasn't just revenge. It was opportunity. It was freedom. It was everything I had earned, on my terms. Send me his number. Already did, Camille said. He's expecting your call. And Jenna? Thank you for not selling out. A lot of people would have tried to use me. I never had to, I replied. We built trust the real way. We ended the call, and I immediately opened the text Camille had sent. There it was. Jordan Hale, CEO, Novatrace. ***. I stared at the contact for a moment, then hit dial. Jenna, Jordan answered on the second ring, warm and energetic. Camille told me you'd be calling. I've been following your work from a distance. And I have to say, her praise for you is the highest I've heard. I appreciate that, I replied. And I'd love to hear more about what you're building. Even better, he said. How about you come down to our HQ this afternoon? I'd rather talk vision face to face. 2 hours later, I stepped into a glass-walled office in the heart of downtown San Mateo. Nothing flashy. Clean. Efficient. A different energy than Ether Core's sterile silence. There were people in hoodies and sneakers sketching architecture plans on glass walls. The coffee smelled real, not recycled. The mood was alive. Jordan greeted me at the front with a confident smile. Barely 40, smart eyes, the aura of someone who built something from nothing. I won't waste your time, he said as we sat across from each other. I'm not looking for a clone of someone else. I'm looking for someone who understands enterprise pain points, who can build trust, and who knows how to win clients for the long haul. Sound like anyone you know? I nodded, already liking his directness. That's what I've done for the last 6 years. I know, he said. And Ether Core was stupid to let you go. But I'm not. Here's what I'm offering. Business Development Director. Full autonomy. You build the team. You own the strategy. Equity. Leadership seat. And a compensation package that actually respects what you bring to the table. I was stunned. He slid the folder across the table. I opened it. And gasped. The base salary was nearly double what I had at Ether Core. The signing bonus alone could pay my rent for a year. The equity package made me blink twice. I looked up slowly. This is generous. I believe in investing in the right people, he said. And Camille believes in you. That's enough for me. I stared at the offer again, then at Jordan. When would you want me to start? He grinned. Monday. I didn't need time to think. I'm in. As we shook hands, my phone buzzed again. Another call from Elliot Crane. I silenced it with a single tap. Jordan noticed. Problem. I smiled. For the first time in days, it reached my eyes. Not anymore. The moment I stepped out of Novatrace's office, I knew everything had changed. The air felt lighter. The world seemed sharper. For the first time in days, I wasn't walking away from something, I was walking toward it. By the time I got home, my inbox was flooded. 7 missed calls from Ether Core. 3 voicemails from Elliot. 2 frantic emails from Sabrina marked urgent. They'd clearly gotten Camille's official message. And they were panicking. But I had no intention of picking up. Instead, I opened the PDF Jordan had sent. I read the offer again, line by line, and signed it with steady hands. Then I sent it back with one short sentence in the email body. Looking forward to day 1. Less than an hour later, Camille called. How did it go? He offered me the position. And I took it. There was a long pause, then the unmistakable sound of her smiling through the phone. Perfect, she said. I just emailed Ether Core. I've withdrawn the contract. Officially. How did they take it? Like someone set off a grenade in the boardroom. I laughed, a real full laugh. One that shook off days of tension. He tried to blame it on miscommunication, Camille continued. Said they valued you deeply and were planning a transition to a higher role. Unbelievable. I told them we were exploring other solutions more aligned with our strategic culture. She paused. Meaning Novatrace. I meet with Jordan next Tuesday. I thought you might want to be in the room. You read my mind. I ended the call and turned off my phone. I didn't want to hear from Elliot. I didn't want to hear their excuses or apologies or offers to walk back a decision they never should have made in the first place. But I knew I'd hear from them anyway. Tuesday came fast. I walked into Novatrace's modest but vibrant conference room wearing the same navy blazer I had worn to my firing. This time though, I wasn't the outsider in the room, I was the reason they were all here. Camille hugged me at the door like no time had passed. Jordan gave me the floor immediately. I presented a revised implementation strategy for Lyra Dynamics, one that integrated Novatrace's more agile platform and anticipated issues EtherCore never even identified. Camille listened intently, nodding often, her confidence in me plain for everyone to see. 2 hours later, the framework was done. The contract was being drafted. $45 million over 5 years. Slightly less than the EtherCore deal, but with better tech, lower friction, and a leadership team that didn't need to fake trust. They lived it. Camille stood, shook Jordan's hand, then mine. Let's make something better together. As soon as she left, Jordan turned to me. That, he said, was flawless. I smiled. That was just the beginning. Word spread fast. By Thursday, my LinkedIn inbox was flooded with messages. Some congratulating me. Some from former clients, curious about the switch. And more than a few from EtherCore employees. But the one message that stopped me cold came from Noah. Danielle's gone. Board voted her out this morning. Blamed the entire collapse of the Lyra deal on her and Elliot. Stocks down 30%. It's chaos. Asterisk asterisk. For a second, I just stared at the screen. I thought I'd feel triumph. But instead, I just felt done. I replied simply, if you're ready to make a change, Novatrace is hiring. His response was instant. Let's talk. 1 week later, Noah joined my team. 2 more followed. Then 5. A ripple of change was beginning, and I was at the center of it. 3 months passed in a blur. Novatrace exploded with growth. Our client base doubled. Camille's success story with us became our signature case study. Industry press wrote glowing features about the quiet force behind the disruption me. And then, late one Friday, Jordan's assistant told me he wanted to see me in his office. I walked in expecting a quick planning update. Instead, he slid a folder across the table. Inside was a press release draft. Novatrace Technologies appoints Jenna Cole as Chief Revenue Officer. I looked up, stunned. You've earned this, Jordan said. You built the team. You brought in the accounts. You transformed the sales culture. It's time your title matched your impact. I sat back, the weight of the journey settling on my shoulders. I don't know what to say. Say yes. I smiled. Yes. Later that night, as I sat alone in my new office overlooking downtown, my phone buzzed one last time. It was Camille. Check the news. EtherCore just announced restructuring. Elliot's stepping down. They're looking for a buyer. Asterisk asterisk. I opened the article. There it was. The company that once told me I wasn't the right image for leadership was collapsing under the weight of its own arrogance. I glanced at my framed diploma from Ohio University on the shelf beside me. The same one they once looked down on. I had never needed an elite brand. I just needed someone to see what I already was. Now, the whole industry did. The headlines were everywhere by Monday morning. EtherCore in crisis. CEO Elliot Crane steps down amid revenue collapse. Asterisk asterisk. Major tech client withdrawals prompt restructuring effort. What happened to EtherCore's flagship contract with Lyra Dynamics? I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. The story told itself. I spent the next few weeks focused on building the Novatrace pipeline, onboarding new team members, cementing client relationships. Each morning I woke up energized, no longer dreading conference calls or fake smiles. I had freedom now. Trust. The space to lead without permission. Noah had already brought in 2 new regional accounts. Camille introduced me to 2 other executives in her circle. And our platform was gaining traction with tech publications who were finally noticing Novatrace as more than just a scrappy startup. But every so often, someone from EtherCore would still reach out. A quiet message. A cautious LinkedIn connection. A vague request for coffee. They never said it directly, but I could read between the lines. They were tired. Tired of pretending merit didn't matter. Tired of watching titles outweigh talent. One of them was Priya, a brilliant data analyst who had been overlooked for years. When I offered her a position, she cried on the phone. This is the first time anyone's asked me what I want in a role, she said softly. I hired her on the spot. She wasn't the last. By the end of the quarter, our team had grown to 18. A mix of former EtherCore employees and fresh talent from unexpected places, state schools, second career transitions, immigrant backgrounds. The very people companies like EtherCore had ignored. And together, we were outperforming expectations. Our quarterly growth exceeded Jordan's projections by 20%. Client retention was near perfect. Internal morale was sky high. Even our beta clients were asking to expand contracts before the testing phase ended. One afternoon, Jordan and I sat in the glass-walled conference room reviewing the latest figures. "We've pulled ahead of EtherCore in mid-tier enterprise market share," he said, almost casually. I blinked. Already. They've lost 3 major clients in 6 weeks. 2 of them came straight to us. He slid a printed email across the table. I recognized the name immediately. Wexler Freight Systems. Another one I'd worked to court years ago before EtherCore told me they weren't aligned with our brand focus. Now they wanted us. Specifically, they wanted me. The silence between us was heavy but full of understanding. This wasn't revenge. This was validation. Later that week, Jordan pulled me aside as we walked through the open office. "I've been getting calls," he said. "Journalists. Analysts. They want to talk to you." "About what?" "About everything." I shook my head. "I'm not interested in dragging anyone through the mud." "You wouldn't have to. They're already buried." Still, I refused. There was more power in the silence. Let them tell their version. Let the results speak for themselves. A few nights later, I was working late when Camille called. "I have a confession," she said. "Let's hear it." "I had lunch with one of EtherCore's board members yesterday. She was trying to feel out if there was any way Lyra would reconsider once they find a buyer. And I told her no. I told her we found a partner who actually listens." There was a pause. "Do you regret anything, Jenna?" I looked out the window of my new office, where city lights blinked like stars. Only that I didn't leave sooner. The next morning, I walked into our team huddle a few minutes early. Everyone was gathered around the long whiteboard, scribbling ideas, laughing, tossing around updates. This was what I had always wanted. A place where people were seen. A place where impact mattered more than pedigree. When the meeting began, Jordan stood and made a short announcement. "As of this morning," he said, "we've surpassed EtherCore in client conversion rate and average annual contract value." The room exploded with cheers. I looked around at the faces, diverse, bright, hungry, and realized something profound. This wasn't just a comeback story. It was a new beginning. Not just for me, but for all of us. The following week, something strange happened. An email arrived from an address I hadn't seen in months. Elliot.crane@ethercore.com. The subject line was just my name. I stared at it for a long moment before finally clicking it open. "Jenna." I recognize that this message may not be welcome, but I wanted to reach out personally, not as a former CEO, but as someone who made a mistake. A profound one. ***. The decision to let you go was not only short-sighted, it was arrogant. I let image and bias drive choices that should have been made based on merit and results. And we've paid for that. ***. If you ever find it in yourself to talk, I'd appreciate the chance. Even if just to say the words out loud. ***. Regards, Elliot. I closed the email. No reply. No need. It was far too late for apologies. That afternoon, during our leadership sync, Jordan brought up something new. "We've been approached," he said. "A major consulting firm. They're compiling a report on executive-level decision-making failures in tech." I raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess, EtherCore is the case study?" Jordan nodded. "They want to feature NovaTrace as the turnaround comparison. You in?" I shook my head. "I'll review it. But I won't trash them. That's not how we lead." He gave a small smile. "I figured you'd say that." Still, it made me think. How many other companies were out there making the same mistake? Ignoring value. Elevating status over skill. Choosing prestige over proof. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about something larger. Later that night, I found myself scrolling through old photos on my phone. One caught my eye. Camille and I, 22 years old, sitting on the floor of our college apartment, laptops open, ramen cups in hand. The caption read, "Building empires from crumbs." And we had. Each in our own way. The difference was, when Camille found herself in power, she reached back and pulled someone up. That was the kind of leader I wanted to be. I made a decision. The next morning, I called Jordan. "I want to start a mentoring program," I said. "For rising talent. The kind that gets overlooked." "You've got a name for it?" "Not yet. But I know where I want to start." He didn't hesitate. "Do it. Full support." I hung up and began drafting a list. Names. Contacts. People I had met over the years, smart, scrappy, overlooked. People who just needed one open door. That afternoon, I received a text from Noah. "You're in Tech Week magazine. Cover story. The woman who quietly toppled a giant." I groaned and laughed at once. Then curiosity got the better of me. I clicked the link. The article painted the picture in soft, sharp strokes. They didn't sensationalize. They told the story exactly as it happened. A woman sidelined for not fitting the mold. A company that forgot what mattered. And a competitor who gave her space to lead. One quote stood out. "When I hired Jenna, I didn't ask for her resume. I asked about her relationships." Jordan Hale ***. The comment section was exploding. One caught my eye. Finally, someone who got where she is by doing the work, not just wearing the right badge. I didn't comment. Didn't share the article. Didn't post anything about it on my socials. But I smiled. Because maybe the message would reach someone who needed to hear it. 1 week later, we received notice from a major logistics conglomerate, Barron Lane Freight. They wanted to move their software operations from EtherCore to NovaTrace. They cited performance and leadership culture as deciding factors. That *same day, I received a LinkedIn message from Priya. "Just finished my 2nd week here. Thank you for giving me the kind of job I didn't think existed." ***. And finally, a message from someone I never expected. Sabrina Langford. No subject. The body of the message was short. "You were right. About everything. ***. That was it. No ask. No excuse. No mask. I didn't respond. Not because I held hate in my heart, but because that chapter of my life was over. Completely. Utterly. Closed. The start of the new quarter felt different. Not just because of the numbers, though those were strong, stronger than anyone had projected, but because of the energy inside NovaTrace. Something was shifting. Meetings started to feel like brainstorms instead of boardroom performances. People shared ideas without calculating who got credit. Feedback flowed from every level, upward as much as downward. It felt alive. I was standing near the glass partition of our downtown office, coffee in hand, when Jordan approached with his usual quiet stride. "You've seen the metrics?" he asked, nodding toward the screen at the far end of the room where the leadership dashboard glowed. "I have." Growth rate, up 17%. Client satisfaction, 98%. Employee retention, flawless. "We're beyond proof of concept now," he said. "This is scale." I nodded, slowly. "Then it's time we act like it." That afternoon, I met with our department leads. Operations, product, marketing, finance. I laid out a new initiative, one that had been growing in my mind since the day I left EtherCore. A framework for inclusive leadership development. Not a program. Not a speech. A new blueprint. We would train internally, mentor externally, and track advancement by performance, not by pedigree. And it would start with us. The idea took hold like wildfire. Team members stepped up to lead subgroups, peer learning circles formed without being asked, and within days, someone suggested a name. Project Signal. Because, Noah explained during the team huddle, we're sending a signal to the industry that it doesn't have to be done the old way. Everyone clapped. Even Jordan raised his hand for a high five. 3 weeks later, we launched the first cohort. 10 employees from different teams, all nominated by peers. Some had graduate degrees. Some had community college certificates. One had no degree at all, just an outstanding performance record and the respect of everyone who worked with him. I led the first session myself. We didn't talk about titles or experience. We talked about moments. When they were overlooked. When they almost quit. When someone gave them a chance, or didn't. It was emotional. Empowering. Real. Afterward, Priya found me in the hallway. "You know what this feels like?" she said. "What?" "A company that actually means it when they say they care about people." I smiled. "That's because we do." Outside, the city shimmered in the late afternoon light. The world felt full of possibility again. That night, I stayed in the office late, finalizing our second quarter roadmap. A quiet knock on the door made me look up. It was Jordan, holding 2 mugs of tea. He handed me one and sat down across from me, uncharacteristically quiet. "We've been offered funding," he said finally. "Big funding." I tilted my head. "How big?" "Series C. Enough to take Novatrace global. But they're asking us to shift some things. Leadership structure. Office locations. And image." That word hit me like ice. Define image. He hesitated. "They want an executive team that looks familiar to enterprise boards. Ivy League faces. Corporate polish." My stomach turned. "They want us to become what we just beat." Jordan nodded slowly. I said no. Relief swept through me. "But," he added, "they'll come back. Someone always does. Bigger checks. Bigger conditions." I stared down at the roadmap between us. "We won't sell what made us different." "No," he agreed. "We'll protect it." I leaned back, tea warming my hands. "And we'll grow it. Intentionally. Carefully. The right way." The next day, we made an internal announcement. Novatrace would remain privately held for the foreseeable future. We would expand, yes, but on our own terms. And we would do it by leading with values, not vanity. The message echoed across every floor. And by the end of the day, 3 more resumes landed in my inbox. Not from recruiters. From people inside companies just like EtherCore, quietly reaching for something better. Spring arrived in Redwood City with a clarity that matched my mood. Mornings were brighter, the breeze crisper, and Novatrace was running like a finely tuned engine. The buzz was no longer about survival. It was about momentum. One morning, Camille forwarded me an invitation. West Coast Enterprise Innovation Summit. A 3-day event in San Francisco for top decision-makers in logistics, automation, and enterprise tech. Panels, showcases, awards. I scanned the details until I saw it, our name. Panel session, Transforming Client Trust Through Leadership. Featuring Jenna Cole, CRO, Novatrace Technologies. ***. For a moment, I just stared at it. 2 years ago, I would have been sitting in the back of that room, scribbling notes for someone else's presentation. Now, I was the name on the stage. On the day of the summit, the conference center buzzed with sharp suits and sharper glances. Brand booths glowed with digital displays. There were logos I recognized instantly, EtherCore's among them, tucked beside a flashier competitor with twice their marketing budget but none of their former gravitas. Jordan and I arrived early. Our panel was scheduled for 10 a.m. As we walked past the registration desk, someone called my name. "Jenna." I turned to find a man in a tailored blue suit, slightly grayer than I remembered, with a polite, uncertain expression. "Elliot Crane." For a second, I said nothing. He extended his hand. I wanted to say, "Congratulations. Novatrace has done incredible things. You've done incredible things." "Thank you." There was an awkward pause. "I also wanted to say," he added, lowering his voice, "that I was wrong. About all of it. About you." I gave him a long, quiet look. "I know." He didn't ask for more. Didn't ask for forgiveness. He just nodded once, then stepped aside as Jordan and I continued toward the ballroom. Inside, the lights dimmed and the panel began. I shared the story, not the drama, not the betrayal, but the rebuild. The belief in people. The results that came from letting performance lead. When the session ended, the applause was thunderous. Afterward, dozens of attendees approached, executives, startup founders, analysts. Some were full of admiration. Others, full of regret. More than a few lowered their voices as they spoke. "I pushed someone like you out once," one woman admitted. "And I've been trying to undo that ever since." I didn't judge them. I just listened. That evening, Camille hosted a private dinner at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the bay. Jordan, Priya, Noah, and the rest of our core team sat around a long table, wine glasses catching the warm light. Laughter flowed easily, stories passed like currency, and the sunset painted the sky in gold. When dessert arrived, Camille raised a toast. To leaders who don't just rise, but reach. Everyone clinked glasses. I sat back, the hum of conversation around me, the ocean breeze brushing my hair, and let it sink in. This wasn't the destination I'd imagined when I first stepped into Ethercore. It was something better. Something I never knew I needed. A place where every voice mattered. A seat at a table we built ourselves. Later that night, walking back through quiet city streets, Jordan slowed beside me. "You know," he said, "I've been thinking." "Dangerous," I teased. He laughed. "Seriously. I think it's time we stop calling Novatrace a startup." I looked up at the skyline, glowing with potential. "You're right. We're not just rising anymore. We've arrived." The silence between us was steady and solid. We didn't need to say anything else. Because we both knew. This was just the beginning. Weeks after the summit, Novatrace found itself flooded with partnership inquiries and investor interest. Our client base expanded rapidly across healthcare, aerospace, and global freight. Our dashboards lit up every morning like sunrise over a city skyline. But success, I learned, often echoes in strange places. One Tuesday afternoon, Camille knocked gently on my office door, holding her tablet like it carried live news. "You're going to want to see this," she said. On the screen was a breaking story from TechPulse. Ethercore faces internal shakeup after executive review. The article was brutal in its precision. Anonymous sources. Slipping numbers. Strategic disarray. It cited a crippling loss of client trust following the failed Syntech deal. Layoffs had begun. Investors were getting cold feet. Then I saw her name, Sierra Westfield ***. Reportedly under review. Her status pending reassignment. I couldn't look away. Sierra, who once stood beside Elliot like a queen in armor, now found herself cornered by the very structure she'd helped build. My fingers hovered over my keyboard. I typed her name into my email contacts, but didn't hit send. Camille raised an eyebrow. "You going to reach out?" I shook my head slowly. "No. I think the silence is part of the message." But not long after, the message came to me. A carefully worded email. Subject, possibility. From Sierra. No apology. No self-pity. Just a single paragraph. I was wrong about a lot of things. "If you're open to coffee, off the record, I'd value the conversation. ****. I stared at it for a while. I didn't feel anger. Just gravity. Like old dust shifting off long-forgotten furniture. I replied the next day. "Coffee works. Thursday. 4 p.m. Clarkson Cafe. ****. Clarkson was a quiet place off Embarcadero, where business folks and locals blended without pretense. Sierra arrived dressed down, no blazer, hair tied back. She looked tired, but more human. We sat by the window. For a few moments, silence reigned between us. Then she spoke. I told myself I had to act like I belonged at the top. That I had to protect the structure. I didn't realize how many people I pushed out to keep it intact. She looked up. I learned too late that leadership isn't about guarding doors. It's about opening them. I took a sip of coffee. Let her words breathe. Then I said, "What do you want now?" Her shoulders fell slightly. "A second chance. Not with Novatrace, I'm not asking for that. Just a clean start. Somewhere I can rebuild the right way." I nodded. Not out of forgiveness, but understanding. Because I had been there too. That moment when you realize the machine you served was never built for you. And now, you had to find your own tools to build something different. We left the cafe without promises. But something had shifted. In the weeks that followed, Novatrace quietly acquired a small AI-based supply chain startup. Their CEO was Sierra. We didn't parade her name, didn't issue statements. We let her work speak. And this time it did. Meanwhile, I walked the Novatrace halls one evening, watching a new batch of interns settle into their desks. They came from all over: community colleges, boot camps, state schools, apprenticeships. No pedigree games. Just raw drive. Camille passed by and smiled. Feels different, doesn't it? It does, I replied. Like we're growing something real. I stepped into my office, glanced at the whiteboard filled with future plans, and for the first time in a long time, I felt the quiet glow of peace. Not the absence of conflict, but the presence of purpose. Because now, the walls that once boxed us in, were ours to shape. The day Novatrace moved into its new headquarters, the energy in the air buzzed like the morning after a long storm. The building was a converted observatory atop the old shipyard district, glass-paneled, sun-drenched, and humming with anticipation. We'd chosen it not for its prestige, but for its symbolism. This place once watched the stars. Now, we aimed just as high. As I walked into the central atrium, surrounded by laughter, sketches on whiteboards, and the faint scent of freshly brewed coffee, it hit me: this was no longer just a company. It was a culture, a movement, a new framework. And I had helped draw its blueprint. Camille approached with a tablet full of metrics. We just hit our second quarter projections 3 weeks early. Our renewable logistics pilot is trending across every analytics feed. Clients want full rollouts by next month. Behind her, interns were being guided through a mock pitch session led by our lead strategist, a woman who used to work in retail and once coded after hours between jobs. None of this followed the standard playbook. And that was the point. Later that afternoon, I hosted an all-hands meeting in the courtyard. No formal stage. Just me, a mic, and a circle of people who had trusted the vision when all we had was grit and a prototype. I looked around. The engineers who left EtherCore after being sidelined. The analysts who once couldn't get past the gatekeepers because their resumes lacked a brand name. The interns now preparing for team lead roles within a year. Then I spoke. We started with a rejection. Some of us were told we weren't enough, that we didn't fit the mold. But what they didn't realize is, molds break, people evolve, markets shift, and the companies that last are the ones willing to listen, grow, and bet on real talent. There was silence. Then applause that felt like a collective exhale. I stepped down and found Camille smiling at the edge. "You're going to hate this," she said, handing me a sealed envelope. I opened it. Inside was a sleek black invitation card. The EtherCore Reinvention Summit. A panel on diversity, innovation, and the future of leadership. And listed among the keynote speakers was me. I laughed. Not cruelly. Just, in disbelief. "They really don't give up," I said. Camille grinned. "You going to accept?" I looked toward the atrium, where Sierra was in deep conversation with 2 of our junior engineers. She had been rebuilding herself from the ground up, no ego, just effort. And I thought about all the people still inside those old systems. The ones watching, waiting for someone to call out the cracks in the foundation. "Yeah," I said. "I'll go." Not for recognition, but to remind the room that leadership no longer wears the same suit it used to. That influence doesn't have to come from power, but from purpose. A week later, I stood before an auditorium full of executives, entrepreneurs, and young professionals. I told them about rejection. About the day I was let go. About the quiet rage that turned into something better. And then I told them about Novatrace. About Camille. About the interns who now taught us as much as we taught them. When I finished, the applause was warm but not roaring. And that was perfect. Because this time, I hadn't come to perform. I'd come to build. Months passed. Then a year. Novatrace valuation soared. But more importantly, our culture held. We didn't forget where we came from. We kept the door open. I still walk the halls some evenings. Not to check, but to breathe it all in. The laughter. The questions. The late-night breakthroughs. The blueprints we drew on napkins that became entire systems used around the world. In my office hangs a single photo, taken the day before I was fired. I'm smiling. Naive, perhaps. But beside that photo is another. A candid shot, snapped by Camille, of me holding our first Novatrace prototype with a team huddled around. And the caption reads, "She didn't break. She built. ***. And now so do we."